Hi everyone, this is Jim with JP Reacts, where you come to hear from politicians and get it translated and analyzed so you can have better conversations both online and in person. Well, today we have a new contender for Politician Reacts, and it's Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy from the House of Representatives. He's the GOP leader in the House, and he had a press conference recently, and we're going to go over that. So we'll pick it up right after this. Okay, so let's start out his press conference. Let's listen to the very first part.
But I want to give you a few facts. Half of the freshmen are either women or minorities. Young Kim and Michelle Steele will be the first Korean-American women to serve in Congress. Nancy Mace will be the first female graduate of the Citadel, and now be the first Republican woman from South Carolina to serve in Congress. Yvette Harold is the first Republican Native American woman elected to Congress, and Stephanie Bice is the first Iranian American woman elected to Congress. This makes me very proud as a Republican and as an American.
Well, okay, so in this first part, Minority Leader McCarthy was talking about the record number of Republican women joining the next Congress, which is a really great deal. Just to go over some statistics about women in Congress. Right now, Congress, there are 535 members, 435 serve in the House. Obviously, there's 100 senators. So of that number, right now for the upcoming Congress that starts in January, there will be 141 women, which is still not half of the population. Over 50% of the current U.S. population is women, so we're getting closer to 50-50 representative in the federal government, but we are still clearly nowhere near there. We need to have well over 200 to get there. Of those 141 women, 51 will be women of color, which is a big step in the right direction on that front. And then a breakdown between the parties. I know Leader McCarthy was very excited about the large number of women from the GOP, but basically the breakdown right now with some races pending is 105 Democratic women and 36 Republican women. So there is still a major discrepancy between the parties. It is in the Republicans' best interest and really the country's best interest for there be more Republican women in Congress, both in the House and in the Senate. So let's take a look at the next part of his press conference.
Now, back in May, NBC News said that President Trump would need a miracle to deliver a vaccine by the end of the year. Not only did Democrats echo this same pessimistic view, they even cast doubt on whether the Americans should trust the safe and effective vaccine. Yesterday, Pfizer announced a 95% effective rate in the late-stage trial and showed it was effective in older adults as well. Earlier this week, Moderna also announced their vaccine had a 94.5% effective rate. This is the most important news in probably a generation. And it's because of American innovation and this administration's plan to effectively distribute the vaccine to the American people. Dr. Slawi says 20 million Americans could receive the vaccine next month.
Okay, in this part of his opening statement, he is really talking about the upcoming vaccines, which are good news. There's been some updates since my last video. The Pfizer vaccine is now showing even higher effectiveness rating, about 95%. The Moderna one was originally at 95%. So that's good news. Still, projections are for frontline and high-risk people to possibly get it by the end of the year. It still has some more trials to go through, and obviously we need to the companies need to ramp up production. On top of that, then the rest of the country should have it available probably late spring is what the current projections are for the availability of the vaccine. Sorry. He also mentioned that it was because of the administration, he's referring to the Trump administration's response to the virus, which is probably not the direction he wants to refer back to because frankly, the Trump administration response to the COVID virus has been a disaster on basically every single front. You can listen back to my reaction to the debate, and it was I think it's in the first part of that debate when they really heavily focused on the COVID virus and the Trump administration's reaction to it. So it wasn't referring to the administration. Yeah, they've done somewhat better recently, but they're still nowhere near where they needed to be, and still nowhere near following the science that would lead to lower infection rates that have been shown across the world in other modern countries. So I'm not really sure why he wanted to refer back to the Trump administration on that point. It's probably not the best idea in the current environment, but he did, so needed to address it here. So let's see what his next comments were in this press conference.
We know that a vaccine is how we ultimately defeat this virus. So we need to help reinforce the work of Operation Warp Speed. That is why House Republicans included $47 billion in H.R. 14, the commitment to defeat the virus and keep America healthy.
Okay, so in this press conference, he heavily was referring to H.R. 14, and I'll be honest with you, I did a really hard search on trying to find this bill. It seems like it's been referred to the Speaker's office, but there's no text of the bill, and there's no summary of the bill, and has yet to be sent off to the appropriate committees. So it's hard to specifically say what's in the bill or if it should be supported or not, based on what's needed for the country. Once that comes out, I would heavily recommend that you look for the text and some good summaries. Congress.gov generally has good summaries of the bill, so at least you can understand, you don't have to read through it and try to figure out exactly what the heck they're talking about. And that way you can get a good idea of what's in the bill and if it's something you should support. So let's listen to the next part of his opening statement.
We are in session. I call on every member in this chamber, especially the Democrat moderates who complained about Nancy Pelosi's failure in delivering a COVID deal, to sign Jamie Herrera Butler's Paycheck Protection Program Discharge Petition. There's already $138 billion in relief just sitting there. It's already appropriated. All we have to do is vote to free it up.
Okay, in this part of the opening statement, he referred to Jamie Herrera Butler's discharge petition. First of all, just to explain what a discharge petition is, in the House of Representatives, basically the entire House is run by majority rule. There's no filibuster like you might have heard about in the Senate or nothing like that. Basically, if you have the majority of votes and you are the majority in Congress, you basically have full power to pass legislation and move legislation to votes and all that good stuff. But the minority party does have some power in the House. And what that is, it's called a discharge petition. And basically what that means is if the majority of the representatives in the House, so currently it would be, I think, don't quote me on the math. Let me type that into my calculator real quick so I can make sure I don't give you the wrong numbers. So if 218 members of the House, which is half, sign a petition saying they want this specific bill to be put to a vote, it's not to pass it, just put to a vote, then that forces the Speaker of the House to put it to a vote. He spoke about that and referred to it. And it seems like this specific discharge petition is about the Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP I referenced in previous videos. And basically the opposition so far from the Speaker is wanting to make sure that we get a more comprehensive stimulus for COVID stimulus and not just the Paycheck Protection Act, which is an important part of it, but won't help as many families as getting a more comprehensive COVID stimulus package out. So that's what the opposition was and why it wasn't put on the floor, just as an extension of the PPP. So let's check out what the next part of this video is about.
All of that. I think every legal vote should be counted, every recount should be finished, and every legal challenge should be heard, and the states should finish their work.
Okay, so this was opened up to questions, and there was 2 questions in a row, and this was basically his answer to both of them. The first question was about President Trump meeting with Michigan lawmakers and other state lawmakers privately to try to get them to overturn the vote or stop the certification in some way, which it can't happen in any case. And the other question was if the Leader McCarthy supported legislatures delaying the certification so they could send their own electors, which again can't happen based on the current laws and whatnot of the United States. And his response to it was basically what you saw in that 15-second clip right there for both answers. He's basically trying not to get involved. When you hear politicians say something like that, where they want legal votes counted, which is, that's what everybody wants, is legal votes counted. They don't want some illegal votes counted. You know, we want legal votes counted. And there's very little evidence across the board of voter fraud. Most of the time when you see voter fraud, a lot of time it's clerical. It's not even real voter fraud. It's just somebody made a mistake somewhere. And it's never enough to overturn, it's never been enough to overturn an election anywhere. So that stock statement is basically him trying to stay out of it, to show that he's supporting the legal counting of the ballots and not being against President Trump, even though he's not specifically going out against President Trump. So it's kind of a Weasley way to play both sides of that conversation and to get the most out of that statement. So let's hear what his response to the next question is.
Well, I can continue to get concerned about the rise and the spike. I will tell you, I just went through 2 days of a conference where every single person wore their mask, except for when they were speaking. I think people have been very clear and understand the seriousness to this. I think that is why when we introduced our bill, H.R. 14, we added $47 billion more to help in any need that we can to make sure the vaccine moves further. It is a miracle that we would have a vaccine this year, just as everybody said it would be impossible. But Operation Warp Speed worked. Not just one vaccine, but now we're on the cusp of maybe having 3 vaccines. With a 95% effectiveness, no one dreamed or thought that that would be possible. Now, how do we get this safe and secure vaccine out to the country? The president has done a lot of work ahead of time, especially with that, and that's why we provided more money, utilizing the military that does this so well. And Dr. Slawi says that there could be 20 million Americans that could have the vaccine next month. I think that is really the future of how we turn the corner on all of this. We need to continue to work towards that. It would be...
Okay, so Leader McCarthy was asked about members of his party, the Republicans, not wearing masks around the Capitol, and if he's going to talk to them. And at the very end, I don't think I included it in the clip, he said he was asked again if he would recommend all members of his caucus, which is the group of when they say caucus, is a group of Republicans that are in the House. So it's a House Republican caucus, or all the Republicans in the House. And then you have the Senate Republican Congress, caucus, which is all the Republicans in the Senate. So when they talk about caucuses, that's what they're referring to. If he would recommend them do it so, and he said yes. I just want to make clear, I think I included in that clip basically an attack on Democrats and media and that, which I'm not going to get into that, but just to be clear, there's currently no vaccine available. And there may be an available vaccine by the end of the year, over the next month, pending some additional trials. And again, that's only going to be available to a small number of people. This 20 million vaccines by the end of next month, there is no expert other than the president's guy saying that that's even possible. Not only it's going to be difficult to ramp up production, because once it gets they don't start production until it gets approved, obviously, because if it doesn't get approved, you're not going to want to make millions and millions of doses of something that can't be sold to the public, or in this case to the government. So let's check out the next part of this clip.
Well, I think that's the law of the land. I mean, despite where you stand on the issue, should you spend taxpayer money for this? I mean, that's been clear for a number of years. That's something that even Joe Biden had voted for in the past, but now wants to change his mind to appease a different wing within his own party. I think now that we have a stronger number inside the House, it would be hard to shift. But I know what the Democrats have done, even defeating a Democrat in their own party in a primary based upon this belief.
Okay, so he was asked, I don't know who asked the question, but I think it was probably a Catholic media outlet about the Hyde Amendment and the Democrats' plan to try to overturn it. The Hyde Amendment was passed in 1976, and basically what it does is it restricts government funding to be used in abortion services, basically except to save the life of the mother, or if it was if the pregnancy became because of incest or rape. That's the Hyde Amendment. It's been a while. It's been around for a while. I don't really, obviously it restricts funds, but the amount of funds that go to this is not really that's substantial, so I'm not really sure why there's going to be a big fight about it. We'll have to see in the coming months if it happens, but that's what the Hyde Amendment is. So if anybody ever asked you, or if you ever hear somebody talking about it, now you know what the Hyde Amendment is. It's all about restricting funding for abortion, federal funding for abortion. So let's see what the next part of this is.
If you watch President Trump, he did do part of that already in the process. I think what really needs to happen is people need to get in a room and work on a COVID relief package. I think getting the economy back working again is the best way of moving forward on how to deal with anyone's debt.
So in this last part that we're going to listen to, he was asked about canceling student debt. That was a main point that Democrats wanted to do in the next Congress. He talked for a while about it and basically didn't really answer the question, if you notice. And when you hear politicians answer questions that way, where they say a bunch of stuff, but they don't actually answer the question, usually means that they don't support it, and they just don't want to say they don't support it. So somebody might say, well, he never said he didn't support it, right? Because he never actually said it. But if he did support it, he would say straight out that he did support canceling student debt. So when you're trying to read between the lines on how politicians speak, you want to listen to what the original question was, and then did the person actually answer the question? In this case, he did not. He talked a lot about it. That sounded good and flowery, but didn't actually answer the question, which generally means that they don't support what the question was about, or in this case, canceling student debt. So that was the last part we were going to show. It basically closed out after that. He was asked about Thanksgiving, so it's not really policy related. He said he's going to have a small Thanksgiving with just his wife and his daughter and his dogs, which was cute. So yeah, I'm sure he sounds like he's got a couple good dogs. I haven't seen any pictures of his dogs. I might have to try to find it. If I find a picture of Leader McCarthy's dogs, I'll post it right after this part of the video ends and before I wrap it up. So if there is a picture, I'll flash it real quick, and then we'll go to the wrap up. So that's the end of the video. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you learned a lot about Leader McCarthy's position, and basically Leader McCarthy speaks for the House GOP in this situation. So if you learned something, hopefully you like this video. If you feel like I misrepresented it or I didn't explain something well, feel free to dislike a video. Either way, please comment below. Tell me what you thought. If there's something you wish I would add to it, or something I might have missed that you think was important that I added to here. I try to leave out the political just attacks that are in these types of speeches. So if I cut that part out, that's probably why that part was cut out. I thought it was too, not enough policy, more political. Sometimes I'll cover political attacks, but in this case, it's more about policy. I wanted to focus on that. So comment below and tell me what you thought, or if you think that's a good policy of mine. Otherwise, hopefully you've subscribed to the channel so you get the next video and know exactly what's coming up. And if you have ideas for if you see a good politician speech that you think I should cover, feel free to comment about that below as too, but definitely make sure you subscribe. So until I see you again, have fun on the internet, and we'll have a great day.